So, hi Stacie, how are you and how are the preparation for Fringe going on?
I am doing great. I got here a few days ago and I'm getting all my ducks in a row. I've ordered a ton of stuff from Amazon so that I can choose what I need and have it, and what I don't need, I'll just send back. But yeah, it's amazing. I've gotten a lot of pieces from Facebook Marketplace, so I didn't, add to the economy. And yeah, I had a nice tech rehearsal with my tech girl today, and you know, I'm ready.
So, do you also have your preview show tomorrow?
No, tomorrow I am doing a press launch performance for kind of selected media and press that are going to be gathered at Greenside. So I'll just sing a song from the show. And then my first show is Friday. It's Friday. Yeah. I think, yeah, Friday the 7th. Yes, that's when we open.
And you're on the whole Fringe run, or
Yeah, I'm gonna do every day, but I have two off days. So there's two Sundays that I'm not gonna do a show.
so how did it
Yeah.
all began? How did you started performing? Do you remember the first time you performed?
Oh, well, yeah, I've been on stage just about as long as I've been alive. Yeah, my very first, I mean, a lot of people know me from my first work, which was Old MacDonald Had a Farm at Preschool. I was the black sheep. Anyway, that was kind of telling. Yeah, no, I just kind of, once I found the stage, I just, that's where I just kind of wanted to be. I liked the people that were involved in making art, and I liked the feeling of, you know, offering something to a group of strangers and having them receive it and being
Yeah.
delighted. So, it's been fun. I've done everything. I've done theater, improv, sketch, stand up, musical comedy, serious music, solo theater, storytelling. I've done it all.
Okay,
As far as if there's a stage involved, yeah.
if 10 years ago, let's go 10 years ago, and I would ask you to pick one of all those things you mentioned, what would you pick 10 years ago?
Are you asking what I was doing 10 years ago?
No, if suppose I would ask you to pick one thing to do when you are 10 years ago, when you were like 10
Oh,
years ago.
well, I just think that look, my I love comedy and I love music. So for me, combining the two was really a great thing for me. I had a comedy band for about 10 years and we toured the US, and that was just so much fun. Um, but now it's just a lot simpler to do solo theater. So, look, I love the trajectory of my experience on the stage. I love that my roots are in stand up. And the reason I like that my roots are in stand up is because it kind of trained me to handle any situation in any room and any audience. You just got to be able to pivot, and stand up is so you can have a little loose, you
Yeah.
know, situation where you don't have to be, so on the book. And, now my solo theater, I mean, I have 123 cues in my current show, so I have to stay on book. But I can do that. I can do that. I can do it.
But there is something like which really bothers me about stand up, about a solo act and a group act. So
Mhm.
a group act is a lot less pressure, but a lot less freedom.
You nailed it. That's right. Yeah. Yep. Yes. That's why I prefer to be a solo performer now. I just like the freedom to have, you know, I like having creative control of what I'm putting up. And I do love a collaboration. Don't get me wrong. I love a collaboration. But at the end of the day, um, if the room isn't going the direction that I want them to go in, I'll pivot, and I'm pretty good at finding my way into everybody's heart. you know.
Yeah. But music is something which is very pure, and making it funny is a really difficult task. Like you can't. Sometimes people use, they go a bit off tone, and then that's the comical part of the music. So,
Hmm.
what kind of comical part do you put in your music? Is it through the music or through the lyrics or through your actions?
Well, I will say, I am lyrics driven always, always lyrics driven. So for me, this is interesting. So for me, writing a comedy song is way easier. Like that to me, I could write a comedy song about anything because there's less pressure to have a musical sort of it doesn't have to be musically important to be a comedy song. It can be very simple. It can be three chords, and you just go, oh, if the jokes are strong and the lyrics are strong, the music doesn't have to be that strong. But then there are people like my idol, Tim Minchin, who, he's done everything. But when he did comedy and music, wow, his musicality was so over the top. Like it was so obvious that he was so talented on the keys and composing that when it came together like that, it's just really impressive. So it's no surprise that he's had the career that he's had because it wasn't just a simple, funny song. Anyway. But now I write the songs that are in my shows now, that's serious music. So that's not comedy music. Those are like my shows right now are comprised of funny stories, stories.
Yeah.
They're always humorous. But then I just weave in music. And so people are kind of like, "Oh, I thought this was going to be a comedy." And it is, but the music is where you're going to feel something. The music is written to make you feel. So I always say the stories in my show right now are telling you what happened in a funny way. But the music is how I felt about it. So that's where it gets really calm and serious. And, the music, really, the musics are all ballads. All the songs are ballads, but the stories between are funny. So we
So the
go, there's a
story
little
is
roller coaster.
so the story would give people laughs and they'll take away the music with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hmm.
Okay, let's go back a little. And do you remember your toughest phase as a performer? What genre was it that you performed, and what was the toughest phase?
Okay. The toughest phase for me, well, I'll answer. The easiest phase for me was stand up. The first time I did stand up, I was like, yep, this is, I was born for this. I know exactly what to do. And there was never a day that I doubted my ability. Okay. When it got tough was my first solo show. Okay. My first solo theater storytelling show, which was actually not just storytelling, it was theatrical. So there was staging and blocking. And oh my God, it was a fantastic show. That was Bulletproof Unicorn in 2022. That was my
Uh-huh.
first French show. And holding down 26 pages of a monologue and keeping myself in order of how I wrote it and sticking to that script because the cues were all built on the words I was saying. That was really tough for me, and getting off book was really tough. But now I have tricks and things that I do to help me memorize a script. But you know,
Yeah, I
yeah,
just realized that musical comedy is so tough because you have to stick to your monologue, else the music will fall apart.
yeah. But
I
it's
mean, you
okay.
can't.
Sometimes falling apart is funny. Sometimes watching it all just go ridiculously off the rails is funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
but you
you
can't do
know,
improv there also, right? You can't improv if you forgot your monologue, or you can.
well, I always tend to like when I was in the comedy band, we would always throw something in to make each other laugh. Like we were a duo, so I would throw something new in, or she would throw something new in. But now I don't because it's a fringe show, and you have 60 minutes, and if you go over, they come in, they turn off the lights, and they let your audience out. So you have to be very judicious in the amount of words you're using and the amount of time you're taking to say those words. So it was really an exercise for me in learning how to edit myself and only put the meat in there. And there's some fluff, but not a lot. But yeah, these shows that I'm doing, there's no room for improv.
And when was the first time when the audience gave you a laughter or an applause, something that felt like a drug to you? That okay, I need this, I wanted this.
Yeah, well, I will say I got that rush the very first time I did stand up, and that was in New York City. back in the 90s, and I was just hooked immediately. I was like, I need that. But I will tell you the most memorable show was with my comedy band and my old partner Shannon. We had a band called Mommy Tonk and the Assless Chaps, and it was all about motherhood and whatever. It's like 17 years ago. No one was talking about motherhood at that time. But we played the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard, which is a great
Ah,
comedy club. It's amazing. We played the main room. This is the most famous comedy stage, really. And we did our set, which I think we were doing maybe 20, 30 minutes, something like that. We got a standing ovation in the middle of the set. We were like, what is happening? We've never seen anyone in a comedy club like give you a standing ovation in the middle of your set. Like we just, we were just doing something really special and different back in the day. So
I
that
think
was
that
really
was
fun.
very, I think that idea of motherhood was very fresh coming from a, like, from a female stand-up at that point. Though it was
Oh
very
God, yeah.
difficult, that initial 2000 to 2010 phase for the female comics.
You're right. So I've always you know, I appreciate you saying that because really back then, no one wanted to be identified as a mom comic. And that's no. But then what we did was we created these, we're both from the South. I'm from Texas, she was from Kentucky. So we both know how to sing in that kind of Southern sweet tone, and we're really good at harmonies, but our lyrics were filthy. So we were singing like the most offensive, not offensive, but racy, raunchy, whatever. But we were doing it in sweet harmony. So every time we landed the punchline, people were like, oh my God, it sounds beautiful and it's hilarious because it's kind of dirty. So yeah, we did that for 10 years and then COVID hit and I just kind of my kids, they were growing up and I was like, I want to do something different. So I kind of pivoted to solo theater and music.
So how were those 2 years of COVID? Did you spend all that writing, or was it a little bit laid back?
Right. So at first I'm people who know me know that I have a really positive attitude. Like I'm ridiculously optimistic. I might be the dumbest person on earth, but I really believe that everything's going to be okay. Okay? So at first I was like, this is great. This is fine. We're going to be fine. Well, about 3 months into it, all that energy went right out the window. So I got really depressed. I was like, wait a second. I can't perform. I can't see my band. I can't see my friends, the whole thing. It happened to all of us. However, I was writing No Good Drunk back in the day in 2020.
Ah,
2020, that was COVID. Now, it took me 5 years to write No Good Drunk, but I started writing the music for No Good Drunk with my best friend, Sam Small. He's my co writer to this day for all of my music. And I said, listen, we only have one person on our COVID bubble, and it's you. And he goes, well, you're the only people in my COVID bubble. I said, I said, you will come into my house, but you have to promise me if but we were all worried. And so he would come over and we'd work outside and we started writing these songs and they were so beautiful. So then a little bit later on in COVID, when we were all wearing masks and people were leaving their house, but they were wearing masks and stuff, I went into the studio and recorded the No Good Drunk album. So COVID for me was when I pivoted to solo theater and I found a way to work safely, to respect everybody's, we just went into the studio two at a time. It was crazy. We were all had masks. We were all isolated, but my engineer was like, we can do this and we can make it safe. And sure enough, we did. And then we went, my family and I went to El Paso to find my grandfather's grave. That was the whole point of the show. And we did that during COVID too, because nobody was out on the road. We waited for a while and we're like, everybody's vaccinated now. Okay, let's hit the road. So we were just grave hunting. And
man,
so
so it
COVID for
took
me was very productive after the first few months of being utterly depressed.
you like 3 years to like perfect that No Good Drunk and bring it to
Five,
Edinburgh. Yeah,
five.
five. Sorry, 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, because I started the whole process took 5 years. I didn't give you the whole backstory, but the whole process took 5 years. And yeah, and wow, I'm so glad I took my time with that because the reviews that I got and the feedback that I got from that show really solidified my decision to go into this format, storytelling and songwriting and singing, because I knew what it meant to me. It was a very personal show, but when I saw how people accepted it, I had to console grown men after every performance. Grown men were just crying, and I'm like, "Hey, buddy, let's, can I give you a hug? Let's talk about how you're feeling." I'm not a therapist, but I was like, it was just a very, ooh. And it was not a comedy, but there was humor in it, but it was not a comedy, and I really enjoyed that. That was different for me, so I liked
So
it.
you used comedy for like a relief basically in that 1 hour
Oh
set.
yeah, that's been my coping mechanism since the day I was born.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard, but that's where all the, traumatic jokes and the absurdity comes from.
Sure. Tragedy plus time equals comedy. It's a great formula, and it's that way for a reason. But I just feel like I didn't realize how my funny bone would be the thing that carried me through so much drama, trauma, stress, chaos, dysfunction through my whole life. And it still is. I'm like, okay, all right, where's the funny part? So
So, hello, my friends, and today we are talking with Stacie Burrows, who's bringing her show Fool's Gold Mine to the Fringe this year. This is her
mhm.
fourth presence at the Fringe, sorry, fourth show at the Fringe, and fifth presence. So, let's
That's
ask her
yeah.
what the show is about.
All right, so Fool's Gold Mine, again, the structure is storytelling with original music and archival footage and photos from my life. But this one's all about financial recklessness and financial, like living beyond your means and going into great deals of debt. Um, I don't know any other country that would allow you to go into the kind of debt that Americans have. And like no one talks about it because it's embarrassing, but that's what I do. I talk about uncomfortable shit and sing pretty songs about it. But my story is that I grew up in the 80s in Houston, Texas, and my dad was a very successful businessman, salesman. But he just kept reaching and reaching and reaching. Materialism and capitalism, it's built upon the just insatiable cravings, right? There was never
Yes.
enough. And so when the Texas oil bust happened and everyone went broke, if you're a salesman who is selling to wealthy people and they're all broke, you don't get paid. So
Yeah.
it kind of tells the story of how, even though we lost everything, my dad never gave up that persona of being a wealthy guy. And so he raised us as rich kids, even though we were not rich at all. But I didn't know until I was a teenager. I was like, what? I mean, because we lived in a very opulent way. We did not, it was crazy.
See, I'm just trying to
Looking back
guess.
on it now, I'm just like, what were you thinking? But then I think, well, it's kind of shaped my confidence in the way that I carry myself through life because, nobody knows what's in your bank account.
I'm just confused, a little
You
bit confused. Is this positivity or stupidity or something in between, or just the fact that, or just simply the love you have for your children? That's it.
Okay. Okay. So it is a little bit of everything, right? So I think what the story is about is number one, it's the love that I have for my father. And he came from nothing. Like he was a farmer in Mississippi and he grew up in a very, very, very almost destitute way. So the fact that he was a self-made success is quite impressive. So my dad and I have a lot in common. We are dreamers, okay? We're dreamers. And I'm the last of five kids. Nobody else in the family kind of understands that sort of, you have to be a little bit crazy to have the level of belief and optimism that people like my dad and I do. Um, we just know it's going to be fine. Like even if everything on us around us is on fire, we're like, hold on, I've got a plan. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. He just made opportunity happen from nothing. And I believe his success was really based upon his charisma and his attitude and his willingness to go for it. And is it a sad story? Yeah, there's some sad stuff that happened, but like for the most part, he's 87 now and he's still standing and he is doing just fine, touch wood. But my sisters are always like, "You're just like dad." I'm like, "Thank you." Thank you. I know. We're funny, we're personable. We believe in magic and we believe that everything's going to be okay, even if it's not.
See,
It's
that's a
all an
callback.
attitude.
See, this is a callback to when you said that you're very optimistic.
Oh yeah. You got to be. You got to be. I mean, why not? There's so many people that see the world and they just are like it. There's a line in one of my songs where I'm like, some people think the world is coming to an end, but every day I see the sun and I believe again. I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, and I know that's a trend right now. Everyone is writing about the apocalypse and the world is ending and the world is ending. I'm like, this is not in the show, but I was raised Jehovah's Witness. Okay. And the Jehovah's Witnesses preached to us when we were little that the world was coming to an end. So the world was supposed to end when I turned 4. Okay, bitch, I am not 4. And the world never ended. So I'm like, this is a cyclical thing. It happens every generation. The world's coming to an end. The world's coming to an end. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. You know what the truth is? Nobody knows what's going to happen. We're here right now. Let's have a little fun and let's make art. You know what I mean? Let's just make beautiful things and meet wonderful people. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. So,
So
I've heard it before.
I can sense a musical comedy coming with a lot of positivity, a little bit of takeaway of sadness, and can we expect some tears in the crowd?
Oh, always, always, always. So there's the song that we end with, I end with, is a song called Fried Chicken. And I
Ah,
can tell you, once you hear the song Fried Chicken, you just will think of this song. And the song is about my dad's love for his mother and his mother's love for him. And the opening line to that song is, which I love, I wrote it. It's with the simple preparation of a simple bird. She told you she loved you without saying a word. And it's all about how simple, how like very basic a love from a parent to a child can be. You don't have to buy a Mercedes. You don't have to buy a big house. You don't have to buy jewelry, diamonds, Rolexes, and luxury cars. Literally, he knew his mother loved him because his favorite meal was her homemade fried chicken. And so the whole song is about, sort of
yeah.
how she was a very simple woman, but he never doubted for 1 second that he was loved. So yeah, there'll
Man,
be
that
tears.
yeah, that's I can understand why there must be tears. And what elements can we expect in the show? Physical comedy, musical comedy, audience
Nope.
participation?
No, not at all. In fact, I really the funny thing is, the shows that I gravitate towards when I come to Fringe are the clown shows, are the big, physical, insane, absurd, just wild, crazy things. That's what I like to go see. But I also feel like Fringe audiences also enjoy just being in a room where the person who is on the stage is compelling enough with a very simple format, right? My writing, I take a lot of pride in my writing. My director, my dramaturg, Katie Rose Donahue's Enriquez, she and I sit there with that script and we make sure that every single word drives the story and every single word moves the plot. Um, and so what they can expect is very simple, a very calm atmosphere, great storytelling, beautiful music, and then the projections behind me. So there's 123 cues in the show, and they're all photos of my life. And, there's a lot of comedy in this show, but at the end of the day, it's just very heartwarming and honest. And there's vulnerability and beautiful music and funny stories.
I can see how much you love the show already.
I really do. It's kind of like it's like when you have a new baby and you want to show the whole world. You're like, "Oh my God, look at my new baby." But my babies are grown up now. They're 18 and 21. They're actually coming out next week, and they're going to be my street team for 1 week. I'm going to make them flyer for me. I said,
Nice.
"You can stay with mom, but you have to flyer for me, and I'm not going to chaperone you." So, if you end up in a jail in Scotland, you're gonna stay there. So- but they love Fringe. They've been coming since the first time I came. So
uh, and when was that first time?
2022. That was when right after COVID, it was the first year Fringe was back, and it was a gnarly year. It was hard. But they can't, they just come for a week. They don't stay for the whole time. They have a life.
So, so from 2022 to 2026, you have, it's just been 4 years. But how much improvement do you see in yourself in those four
Oh
years?
my God. Okay, so my confidence has really escalated because I was worried, you know, I was worried that it wouldn't be enough to just tell a great story and sing some beautiful music and have projections behind me. Because I was thinking, oh, it has to be like a clown show and it has to be, wild and wacky. But then I found that audiences were like, no, that was really beautiful. They're satisfied. And I'm satisfied because listen, I'm no spring chicken, and I feel like I'm going to deliver the show that I know that I can execute. And if I put myself in a situation where it's physically taxing and I'm gonna I'll break a leg or something. I'm just like, look, I'm gonna just entertain you for an hour. And what I like about what I hear from people is that they'll see my show and then the next year I'm coming back to Fringe. People are already sending me messages through my social media like, hey, I saw your show last year. I'm back again. And I can't wait to see what you've
Oh my
created this
God.
year. So I'm like, oh my God. So I have friends all over the world and they're excited to see what I've cooked up this year. So it's kind of nice. That for me is really special when I'm like, you found my show out of 3,500 shows. You took a chance on a nobody, but you liked it enough to come back for more. So for me, that's success.
And that's a beautiful feeling, I must say.
Oh, that's the whole reason I do it, is to connect with people. Like, come on, you can leave Fringe with a Netflix special, you can leave Fringe with, a West End transfer, but if that's what you're setting yourself up for as your goal, yikes, that's going to
It's
be
correct.
hard to manage. I wouldn't say no if it knocked on my door, but what I am saying is I know what I offer and I know how it's received. And I'm so pleased when people go, God, I really, really liked that. That was really special or whatever.
And this would be the last question that I ask
Mhm,
everyone, that
mhm.
who did you grow up watching? Who were your idols?
Oh, well, what age? I mean, first and foremost, it was the Muppets. I mean, I love the Muppets and I love Saturday Night Live. That was it. Now, as I got a little bit older, when I went to university, that's when I found the comedians that really shaped my worldview, which were number one, Bill Hicks, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin. Um, I like those comedians because they were funny, they were smart, but they had something to say about a bigger issue. So I like a comedian like Seinfeld. That's funny stuff, but he's not making a statement.
Yeah.
And I really gravitated towards, especially when I was shaping my worldview and I was leaving this really conservative, religious, Southern background, that this bubble that I had been in, and then to come into these words of these really funny comedians, I was like, damn. But I have so many influences, you know, so
Yeah.
many. But those were really the ones: the Muppets, SNL, and Bill Hicks,
Yeah.
and George
See,
Carlin, and Lenny Bruce.
I had a huge poster of George Carlin in my other room.
You
Yeah.
did?
Yeah. So, and one of the best stories I know about George Carlin and Lenny Bruce is that George was at one of the shows of Lenny Bruce
Yep.
and he saw Lenny Bruce got arrested. And then
Yes. And
years
he
later,
got arrested too.
and he
I
got
love that
arrested.
story. I love that you know that story because I'm like, Carlin idolized Bruce, right?
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you're coming up and you see your idol and you're like, oh my God, like I can't imagine what that must have felt like to just be like, if he's getting arrested, I'll get arrested too. And then not only that camaraderie, but like just the fact that Carlin carried on the job of saying, it's speaking truth to the ridiculousness of the world today. And, I just admire that because taking a risk like that in those days, Lenny to me, God, he's just such a, I got a little bit like I have like an obsessive personality in that when I really like something, I'll do such a deep dive. So I did so much research about Lenny Bruce and I was just like, "Oh my God, the trials at the end and how he died from an overdose and how it just drove him crazy, how he wasn't able to have free speech." That's what it really came down to. But when I moved to Los Angeles, one of the very first things I did was because I have the his book, this huge book, Lenny Bruce. I also have in my collection, I have three vinyls from Lenny Bruce, but then I wanted something with his signature on it, and my husband gave me a Lenny Bruce artifact that had his signature on it. It's a personal check that he wrote himself for cash, and it has a signature on it. It was really cool. Anyway, but when
Oh,
I
wow.
got to LA, the first thing I did was I tracked down the house where he died, where he was living in the Hollywood Hills, and you can't get to the house because there's a
Yeah.
gate, but I did that, and then I went to his grave and I put a little note under his grave headstone. I just wrote a little like I don't know, maybe it's still there, maybe it's not there. It's been 20 something years, but he just really he affected me in such a he made an impact. Even though he's been dead for years and years and years and years. That's what I love about art. It's the legacy that you leave behind. And some people think that being an artist is a waste of time and money, and I'm like, no, no, because everything that's every thing we buy and everything, it's stuff, and stuff goes away. But the legacy we leave with art and music, especially, and comedy, um, God, what a gift, you know?
And
So,
it's so sad for people now around the world that we can't see Lenny Bruce perform because there are no videos. They're all just viral disc, and I would love to see his expressions because when you talk about Bill Hicks and George Carlin, one of the best part is their expressions, how their
oh
expressions change
yeah.
when they deliver everything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was so sad. I was supposed to go see Bill Hicks's last show, and this also shaped the way that I see the world and the choices that I make. So I lived in Austin, Texas. I was at university at the time, and he was doing a show at like the Capital City Comedy Playhouse, whatever the hell it's called. And I worked the late shift at the restaurant, and then he was doing like an 11 o'clock set. And I was trying to get a group to go with me. I was like, "Come on, guys, it's Bill Hicks is performing." They're like, "Bill who?" And I'm like, "It's Bill Hicks. Come on, who's gonna go with me?" And no one would go. And so I go, "All right, I won't go either." He never performed again. He died shortly thereafter, and I was like,
Man.
if you're really pulled to something, even if you go alone, you have to just go. If I had seen the last performance that he gave live, oh my God. You know what I mean? But I guess I wasn't supposed to because I wasn't there. But yeah. So yeah, I try to capture moments and I try to just do the thing. We're only on the planet for a little bit.
And I
Just
think the
do the
best
thing.
part about those comics are even if you think about their bits now, they're relevant.
Oh, more so than ever. More so than ever. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I can't even get into the political landscape in the
Yeah.
States because it's so upsetting. But I will say that there are comedians, there are still comedians out there that are willing to say something.
Dave
But
Chappelle.
boy, you really risk your career if you say the wrong thing. I mean, they've just taken away people's free speech, which is kind of one of the
I
major tenets of our
I think Dave
constitution.
Chappelle is the only one who's saying things right now. And
Who's that? Dave Chappelle? Is that what you
yeah,
said?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's always been sort of on the forefront of saying you just and now like I think when he was really young, he was so fearless and that's why he did so well. And then I think stepping away and then coming back, and again, he's a controversial figure now and I'm like, "Oh, I can't imagine. Like if Lenny Bruce and Bill Hicks were here or I mean George Carlin lived a long time, but these are not perfect people."
Yeah.
you know? And I go, sometimes, and I'm not excusing any bad behavior, but I am saying sometimes don't judge the messenger, listen to the message. Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes,
I
you
think,
know.
see, George Carlin has a huge drug history, huge, like,
Oh, Lenny Bruce died of a heroin overdose. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
But even if you think about George Carlin's opening bit, that the people who are against the abortion are the people who weren't, you would fuck in the first place. It's
Yeah,
still,
exactly.
man.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what's interesting is like I have an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old son, and my youngest, I have Carlin's book Brain Droppings. Actually, I think I have three copies. I just kept buying it. I was like, I should have another one. But I gave it to him a few years ago, and he was like, you always give your kids stuff and they don't ever really read it or look at it or whatever. But I gave it to him and I was like, hey, I think you'll like this. And he texted me one night late and he was like, this is really funny. This is really good. I was like, yeah, baby. So, and in fact, that book is still on his bedside table, Brain Droppings.
So, Judd Apatow made a documentary on Carlin, actually, American Dream. I don't know if you watched it
Yeah.
or not.
But I'm not sure if I've seen that one yet. But I will take a look at it because that was his daughter, right? Kelly, did she make it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I'm wondering if I saw that. I should remember if I've seen it, but I don't remember.
yeah.
Sometimes I watch stuff and I go, oh, sometimes I fall asleep because once
Yeah.
I'm very energetic, but the minute I lay down, I'm like, if you put something on, I'm like, oh, we're gonna go to bed now.
Yeah, see, every time I talk about Carlin or any comedians like this, it gets the conversation just drifts apart.
Yeah, but I will say he was one of the last great just free speech advocates and also when you talk about the drug use, like let's talk about that for a second. Because I Bill Hicks talked about it. Lenny Bruce obviously did a lot of drugs. And I feel like it's an interesting time because they're using a lot of psychedelics now in treating PTSD and addiction. They're treating addiction now with something called oh, I'm going to say it wrong. Obigaine? No, Ibogaine.
Okay.
So there's this like so they're fighting drug addiction with drugs. And also like weed is legal in California and you're like, it's been demonized. It's been demonized for a very long time, but now we're seeing that this generation coming up, they'd much rather get high than get drunk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, actually, that's not a bad call. This I don't know, maybe time will tell, but like I would rather my son be high than drunk because I'm like, oh, booze is not, you got to learn how to drink booze before you start going out into the world hammered. But when he's high, he's real manageable. He just gets hungry. I'm like, I can handle that.
See, you
So,
reminded me of just another question. I have to ask you this, and
yeah.
it could be a little controversial. It's not related to you, but it could be a little controversial. I
Oh,
saw
I
the
don't mind.
Seinfeld interview where he said that art and artist should be two different people. But when you talk about people like Bill
Oh
Cosby,
gosh. Okay.
and
So you're bringing up the topic of separating the art from the artist, right? Is that what
yeah,
your topic
yeah,
is? Okay, go
and
ahead.
I'm
Keep going.
specifically talking about Bill Cosby and Louis
No.
C.K.
Yes, I was wondering if his name was going to come up. So I used to perform with Louis back in the day in New York. Great comedian, great writer, great delivery. Had a fantastic show with Pamela Adlon called Louis. You
Yeah,
know, he was
Little
just
Louis.
right. So right, but then he misbehaved. He misbehaved at a time. What he did probably has been done forever
In
and
the
ever and
past.
ever and ever. Right. And I'm not excusing it, but I'm just saying if you're coming up in the world today, there are new rules. Don't
Yeah,
be a creep. If you're a creep, uh, people aren't going to be quiet about it. Now, that being said, my biggest like there's two artists that I have a hard time separating art from artist. Now, first of all, Bill Cosby, that one I'm just like, what a creep. Yeah, I grew up on the Cosby Show, of course. But now I know what he was doing off
Yeah.
screen, and you're like, oh well, come on, that's you can't do that. You're being a creep. But the two I have a real hard time with: Woody Allen and
Uh,
Michael Jackson. Woody Allen and Michael Jackson, and I'll tell you why. Woody Allen, he's Annie Hall, and I'm just like, that's such a great film. And Michael Jackson, some of the greatest music that has ever come out of any studio. And
yeah.
you look at the two of them and you go, well, they misbehaved or they're being accused of misbehaving. Um, so those are the two I have a hard time with. Bill
But
Cosby,
like again, there are like accusations because since the Michael movie came out, people are saying the allegations weren't proved and everything. But
yeah.
this reminded me of a Chris Rock joke. Chris Rock said
I
that he
love
would,
Chris Rock. Oh my God, please tell me your favorite. Yeah.
yeah, I love him all. So Chris Rock said this joke on his on his special Selective Outrage that
Mhm.
both R. Kelly and Michael Jackson had the same allegations, but you wouldn't
Mhm.
play R. Kelly songs. You would play Michael Jackson's
Yes, exactly. And the reason for that is
better music.
Michael Jackson has better songs.
It's bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, come on. It's Michael. And again, now look, Michael Jackson. Again, I always feel like what happened to Michael Jackson started when he was a child, and he was a victim of a lot of abuse. And he was also Jehovah's Witness, by the way. And again, no excuses, but there was no way on God's green earth that that child was ever going to grow up to be normal or fit into society or act appropriately.
Yeah.
No way. No way. I mean, he was doomed from the start.
He never
But
had a childhood.
he changed the world.
Yeah.
He changed the world. But again, who knows? Who knows what the truth really is? But that I remember where I was when he died. My kids were little toddlers, and we were all kind of watching TV in the afternoon after their little preschool or whatever. And it came on the news that he was being rushed by ambulance, and all the traffic in LA was basically just like parting for this ambulance. And we're like, oh God, they're like, rumor has it it's Michael Jackson. And I was just bawling. And they're like, Mommy, why are you so upset? I was like, Michael Jackson. Like, who's Michael Jackson? I was like, this is I was like playing all this Michael Jackson. And they're like, okay, weirdo. But I was like, nah, you'll understand it when you're older. But so I don't know. Listen, I could talk for hours on that topic,
Yeah.
separating the art from the artist. But at the end of the day, I have to make a choice for myself, and I just live by don't be a creep. Don't be a creep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not perfect. I definitely am flawed, but you know,
See, I would say that for me, it would be Louis only when it comes to
yeah,
separating art from the artist.
yeah, yeah.
But not like, see, Woody Allen, I didn't grow up on Woody Allen. But when I started
Right.
watching
Well, I will say to find the old Woody Allen
I love
stand
Annie
up.
Hall, obviously. I love Annie Hall, but I never watched stand up. But I would like, because
Yeah.
almost everyone I interview, they say that at one point or the other, Woody Allen had a pivotal role in their life.
100%. Like as far as being a joke writer, having it so clean, and again, editing down to just like one of my favorite jokes of his is, I can't do a Woody Allen impersonation, but he would be like, when I was a kid, my mom would say, if someone comes around in a van and offers you candy, go. It's just like, oh my God. And then, of course, his line, I never want to be a part of a club that would have me as a member. And I'm like, yeah. But
Yeah.
again, it's so concise. And I'm always about brevity, especially with comedy. It's like, just get to the joke, get rid of the fluff, get to the joke, move on. But yeah, his early stand up is wonderful. And he's a flawed human. We're all here on the planet and we're all flawed. Every single one of us are flawed. So,
And thank you so much for being a part. But one last word of advice to every performer who is performing at the Fringe for the first time.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I could do a whole hour on this, but I would say pack your patience and level your expectations, right? Your job as a fringe performer is to survive it. Get to the finish line and be proud of yourself for doing it. And honestly, don't get overwhelmed by press, reviews, all that crap. It doesn't matter. Your job is to go find your audience on the street, make meaningful conversation happen, and lure them into your van with the candy. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
just
I
all it
do.
is. It's just every day's a new day at Fringe, and keep your chin up and keep swimming. That's it.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, and I hope you liked it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. Honestly, I do. So I hope you have a great day. I don't know what time it is where you are. It's probably very late, but I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, and I hope, and I'm glad that we didn't bring up the topic of George Carlin earlier in the conversation. Else, the show conversation would never have happened.
Well, you know what? It's okay. It's okay.
All right, thank you so much, and all the best for the Fringe.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time. Okay,
Bye
bye.
bye.